you know, false. When you come into the campus, you know, you can go to the right, for the left, it goes all the way around campus. You go to the right, it's a door that's popped up right there. It's not part of the, where the Northwood Stairs and stuff. And it's up in there. And it's like this, I guess it's the college. So we use that as a home base. But we use the campus quite a bit. And I go around.
Okay, cool.
Is it over by the field hockey fields and soccer field? I know exactly what's happening. It's right on the corner. Yes. Yeah, that's a great little thing. Yep, and it's perfect because that whole community there. Yeah, I think certain people want to do like a community playground. So like every small little area around the campus.
Yeah.
They're focused. That's what we want.
It's not even close.
There's several. There's several. Yeah, I mean, there's big like area too. So, but there's quite a few areas around. But it's yeah, very nice. Very nice.
And then I'll stop thinking about taking over.
Is that for Bill? Okay.
Before you use the village line, just before you use the dirt road. Right. I don't think anyone's living there right now.
Well, a lot of it goes to the state. We don't get
Whatever you want to
we get
Okay, that makes
parking tickets.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We should probably get started.
Not sure what it falls into.
Everybody's ready?
George, continue.
Dean, what you got for us this time?
Okay.
Because next have to be mine.
1 through 4 you got in front of you. Total alarms are 17, but with those alarms we had a lot of man hours attached. You're going to see the response man hours is up about double what it normally is, 165. Training's normal. Activities are up also this month. We had a lot of different things we did for activities. A couple fundraisers, stuff like that. Repair issues, once again, it was a good month for that. Thank God. New purchase, what we are going to start doing is start doing our gear that's budgeted already. We buy 3 sets to 5 sets every year. We budgeted for 3 this year, so I'm going to start that process. It's a lot of money. The price went up in them, but we budgeted for that, knowing the cost would go up. We're going to do 3 sets. My process is hopefully to get 1 a month. If that doesn't work in the company who we get it from, which is Tyler Fire, Morning Pride, then I'll end up ordering up 3 of them, and I'll have to come back and let you know because it'll be over $1,000.
Okay.
It's state contract pricing, so it's not the end of the world either. So just give you a heads up that we're going to start doing our gear. Daytime AMA, all the chiefs met as you know last month when I discussed it. It is into effect. It started Monday, September 1st. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. we've already had 3 or 4 different runs, and it's actually worked out really well. So that's moving forward also. With that, we've created the joint tag system, which I talked about briefly last month too. Went to the town of Greenwich. They're going to help assist us on it too. It's something that we have not produced on either end as far as budgeting, as far as any of the departments in the town of Greenwich or any of us. But what it is a tag system that will allow accountability for all the members that are on the fire grounds, so that all 4 departments will have the same exact system, so that we know where everybody is and why and when and type deal. So with that in mind, I know we get the money from the town type deal to support ours. I'm going to take that out of our budget, our portion, and the town's going to take some out of their contractual for us. At this point, I believe we're going to go tomorrow night to finish the discussion with that, as Dort was there, I think, for the end of the conversation last month. So it'll be 50-50 basically between the village and the town on replacing our tag system and getting up to speed with all the departments in the area. And we're paying for just ours, but I mean the other departments are doing the same thing. So that's going to be working well. The firehouse, I've given you some information tonight in regards to that, and I know our next step at this point in time is to start meeting with some of these people once we figure out what we're going to run with, I believe, correct? And at least see if we can get a price eventually roundabout so we know where we're going with that. I think that's all I got this month.
Yeah, just to refresh everybody's memory, the meeting that Dean referred to is going to be on September 25th at 7 o'clock here. Bob Mitchell, who's an architect who specializes in public safety buildings, is coming up to give a talk on how a community can go forward with planning one and determining the needs and budget. He's coming up with the understanding that the village is talking with other architects, and there's no guarantee that he will get the contract whatsoever. He's coming up willing to do it simply as a community service for us.
Did that get moved? Because I had it written down.
Yeah, it was moved back.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a scheduling conflict, so it's September 25th.
Okay, because I didn't get any notification it's going to be changed.
Sorry.
Okay, but if you change, when you do the email list, just,
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter now on the fire committee.
And while we're at door, if you could, I will be out of town, so possibly, if possible, a cover for me.
Sure.
On that meeting.
Yeah, and that's a meeting that's open to the public. And we're encouraging as many people to come from the community as possible. And what I'm hoping that meeting will start will be a community-wide public discussion on how to go forward with this project, because it's something that we need community input and involvement with. Also, Dean, my wife is good friends with a woman from Greenfield who is a marketer, and she's also a manufacturer of hot fudge sauce. Mm-hmm. And she's coming up with a basically a custom label hot fudge sauce that once it's finished, the fire department will be able to sell that as a fundraiser.
Great.
And this woman is also doing it with the understanding that she'll be able to then market that to other fire departments all over the place. So she's still testing out a couple of different recipes, and I got something at home. I'll bring it over to the fire department.
Perfect.
You guys to test it out and see what you think.
So if we're sick and then you lose,
You'll know why.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
That's worth it.
Yep. And also one of it's not really, it's sort of, I guess, part of the different part of the agenda. But Jim Cox, who's a local lawyer, has agreed to go forward with doing the paperwork to set up a legal foundation, a nonprofit foundation for the youth committee. Once we have that done, I want to look into exploring similar nonprofit foundations to do fundraising for the new fire department and fundraising for building restoration here. So that's something that's in the works, because we really need to get going on that.
What time is the Mitchell presentation?
7 p.m.? Yep. Yes.
I wanted to tell Dean, the town meeting's Wednesday night, Dean, are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't. It's Wednesday night this week. Thank you.
It's because of the primary.
Our meeting's Wednesday. Still 7 though, man. All right. Thank you very much, because I've been over there sitting by myself.
Been voting.
Yeah, you've been sitting about voting.
Yeah, that's true.
Any questions from the trustees for Dean? Comments or questions from the public for Dean? No? Okay. Next up, George.
You want to go back to the minutes?
Oh, I always miss the minutes, don't I? Sorry. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve last month's minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Do I hear a vote to approve them?
Matt?
Okay. George.
The reports in front of you. Quiet month for the most part. Occasionally people drop babies around the village of Greenwich and we get them taken care of. But, the new car is in. It's currently getting equipped with all the lighting and sirens, and it said they hope to have that out in service here in another week or so. If all goes well. The only other thing I have is I have 2 part-time employees. Had a 2 officers, maybe 3 over the last 3 or 4 months that have resigned, part-time officers, and I need approval on the Greenwich side of things. They've been approved in Cambridge, and I need the James Mears and Matthew Jackson to be added to our part-time list. I'll update Diane with all their particulars. Other than that, that's it.
Any questions or discussion from the trustees? Questions, comments from the public? Okay.
Can I address, I think Mr. Pratt's here on the dog issue.
Sure.
Have you talked to the dog warden?
No. We called him a couple times this summer.
Okay.
And
Has he responded?
No,
no.
I'll stay on both.
Okay.
You may have called him on the telephone, but I don't know.
Okay, all right, okay.
I've also called him twice, trying to set up a meeting. He has not responded. So at this point, I'm getting ready to advertise the position.
Okay.
I really want to talk to Andy to sit down how to...
We're going through the same thing.
I thought you were going to talk to me about my beetle.
No.
That needs to go too.
Right, yeah, well, as long as we're on it.
We weren't gonna bring it up, touch the subject.
Oh, you're the one.
I'll address the situation. I'm going through the same thing on the Cambridge side of things, and I just need, and I know Tony's been working on it, we're addressing this whole animal control, dog control issue, and who's responsible for what, and where we step in and where we don't. But this is an ongoing situation, and I'll deal with it with Mr. Pratt as far as that goes.
And I know of 3 people who have called the animal control officer and they have gotten no response from them. So 3 of those are on that list.
Okay.
Would this be somewhere where we might want to contact Cambridge about some sort of intermunicipal working together?
Well, I think between Mr. Kelly and Mr. Jordan, they're being hounded by both villages. I think it's an issue of, you know, what are we going to do with it as far as animal control, dog control, where do they step in, where don't they step in, so on and so forth. And I think we need a lot of clarification as to who's doing what. So.
And if I can,
Who's the animal control officer?
Ed Holland.
And he took over for somebody recently?
No,
He's been for some
well,
years.
since Charlie Spear resigned.
I know that the town of Whitehall has the same problem.
Right.
A lot of.
We're going through the same thing, similar in Fort Edward, just to let you know, and what they did up there because of the same issue with him coming out and not getting a hold of him. People are complaining is they actually taken half of the salary that he makes every year and put somebody from the village in charge of it also. That's more of a point of a contact, and then with that, because that Holland actually has the housing for the dogs and stuff, that's going to be the problem that you're going to run into is being able to find somebody else that can actually take the animals and legally hold them. So it kind of worked that way. They started that. It seems to be working a little bit better. But once again, you know, now you got 2 points of contact rather than just one.
Yeah.
I know last night I was walking and when you have a police officer that's called out to take care of a deceased cat, and it turns around the DPW responds to that also. That starts to cost money, I would imagine. The black cat last night on the road.
Yeah, that call came from Washington County. Yeah.
George, are you looking for a motion tonight to approve hiring these 2 part-timers?
Yes, because I have them on the table already in Cambridge, and in order to utilize them to fill in the schedules over here, I need approval here.
Do you hear a motion one way or another?
I'll make that motion.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Are we going to need a chance to look at the resume?
Yep. I'll bring everything in to the village clerk. She needs them for.
Chief, are these guys, I assume security clearances on these guys?
Yep, full background check. Yep.
And they have the, qualifications. Do they have the training?
No, they don't. That's the other thing, that the stipulation that they attend our part-time basic school October 1st. And that's one of the reasons why we've had such a vacancy lately is everybody, the school's coming up, hopefully October 1st, and it's caused a couple of guys at the last minute to reconsider and resign from their positions. So.
Okay.
Chief, do you want to talk about the school a little bit?
Hopefully.
Well, hold on. Let's take a
Yeah.
vote on this. Because that's another issue. We have the,
Oh, is it on the agenda?
well, no, we have a motion right now
Oh, okay.
to approve, so we should take a vote. Is there any more discussion on that? Do I hear a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, Kat?
Tell us about the school.
I'm hoping October 1st. My assistant chief and a couple of the other officers here have taken on the responsibility to put on a part-time basic school. Would run from October 1st through 9 months. 2 nights a week, all day Saturday and a couple of Sundays going in. In hopes to train not only our own part-time officers, but we have a difficult time getting them trained. And part-time for the salaries that we pay, You don't have full-time police officers looking from another village to come in and do part-time work. So you're grasping at unqualified people from the communities that want to do this. So we're putting together a school. Zone 5 would normally do it, but they're not interested in putting on a part-time school. So we're kind of taking it upon ourselves to do that. And hopefully we can get enough. There's a fee involved in it to cover some of our incidental expenses, instructors, and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping with October 1st we'll be up and running in Cambridge at the Cambridge School with a part-time academy.
And who's going to be the instructor?
We have instructors coming from all over the zone,
Okay.
Depending on their expertise and what topics they can teach and so on and so forth. That's where some of the cost comes involved in the school is, you know, an instructor from Troy PD may come in and he's going to whack us 3 hours of his salary to come up and instruct. So.
What about, is there anything in the shared service push that might, that this might fall under its umbrella?
You know, we met way back when I first brought this idea up with Senator Little about this whole shared services thing and pushing for this. She's gone to Zone 5, she's gone to the Department of Criminal Justice and talked to them. And their response isn't overwhelming on a part-time academy. It's just one thing, once you move away from the heart of Albany, Troy, and Schenectady and Colony, you don't see a lot of part-time until you get up here in the north.
Right.
So,
but this exists all across upstate New York.
It does. And that's my issue that I addressed with the senator about it, is that it seems that we're the forgotten few in upstate New York as far as getting part-time officers trained. But you go to Zone, which Zone is a privately owned organization. Zone just, and I don't want to say they don't care, but they just don't have the time or, I think, the desire to put down a part-time academy. They're running back-to-back full-time academies, as our patrolman Teft is in now. They're running them back-to-back, and then to try to throw a part-time academy in between, I guess, is an overwhelming burden. And it's a lot to it, you know. And certainly, I kind of wash my hands of it myself personally. I have too much to do, but it's a necessity, and I think hopefully if we meet, I'd like to fill the class with 20, 25 students. If they can do that, we'll be okay. So.
Have you had response outside?
I have some, but not as great as I thought it was going to be, so I don't know. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
All right, any comments or questions from the public for today? Leo, what you got?
Just a couple things. You probably know we started that sidewalk installation today up on Local Place, and as far as I know, everything went well. It's getting late, but everything went well today. So hoping to get maybe a third of a pour on Wednesday, but I don't know about the weather tomorrow. So we have started that. We've got some driveways to fix from our sidewalk installations. So we've got a couple more days of blacktopping somewhere along the line. And we have a meeting tomorrow with CT Mail on water. So we're going to get that started, the filtration part of it. And the only other thing I have there is we have a tremendous amount of stumps that need to come out, and our machine just won't do it anymore. It's breaking down. You can handle the smaller ones, but those big ones, there's too much for it, and it's tough getting parts for it. I don't know if you want to take a look at maybe bidding that out either this year or for next year's budget or something, but somehow we've got to get those stumps out because we've got to plant new trees.
Well, that's something we can look at for next year.
Okay.
About how many stumps are you talking later?
I'm talking between 60 and 70.
Any comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the public for Leo? Okay, thanks, Leo.
Thank you.
Peter?
We met and spoke with the town board after the village board meeting last month, and it went very well. We then met with one of the board members from the town and walked the property in the back. You guys can speak more on how you felt it went, but it looked as though the best possible location that they are willing to look at is actually behind TD Bank North, which isn't even their property. So David had emailed the point of contact with TD Bank North, and I don't know if you've received anything yet.
Yeah, David Bartholomew, I think you pronounce his name, called back today. He's 100% behind putting a little pocket playground on that property. He's not sure what the bank itself's response will be.
Okay.
He figures we have a chance, but certainly not an overwhelming chance, but he's going to do everything he can to be able to move it forward. You know, all we can do is just wait and see at this point.
And with that comes lighting issues and surveillance issues. There's a spot that's by the memorial tree, I believe they call it, that would be a direct line of view from the police office. But where this is definitely not. And we would have to communicate with the Catholic Church to try to work with them, because people would obviously want to park in their parking lot. So that was another issue that came up. Then we walked over to the ice hockey rink, and there's some drainage issues, Leo, that I think you guys are definitely aware of. And that's something that would have to be addressed. But other than that, it looks really trimmed back, and everything looks great back there. Other than that, I gave you another copy of the nonprofit information that I had submitted to the previous board. And you know, wherever you want to go from there. But this is my this would be my last month according to my contract. So wherever you want me to go from this point, let me know. But if it's a nonprofit thing, it would be my recommendation that we move to a nonprofit status, push forward on that, and then that would alleviate the village from paying a stipend to a contractor like myself, and it would take that money and that could be used for youth services, because I'd like to see that happen more so than anything else.
Sure.
And we can definitely do that. You know, after October 15th, when I'm done with my contract, we can move towards the nonprofit, and it would be a lot. We could do the same thing, basically, if not more.
Can I ask if there would just be the same kind of contract but with a not-for-profit?
Correct, and we would submit a proposal to you, however we want to set it up, set a proposal to you and say, this is the programs we want to establish, this is how much it would cost, this is the rationale and the goals behind those programs, and you can yay or nay them, and it's basically the same thing that I'm doing, with the exception of you're saving the village $975 a month.
Well, okay, as I said earlier, a meeting with Jim Cox set up next Monday. Jim's a lawyer, used to live in the village, he lives in Easton now. He volunteered a number of years ago to try and help set something up, and the issue never went forward for whatever reason, and Jimmy is again willing to be the legal point person on this, so I'll have hopefully a good long discussion with him about how the village can go forward.
Sure.
There's no sense of my talking to St. Joe's about the parking issue until we find out whether or not TD Bank North is going to go forward.
Sure.
And if they're not, then we have to go back and talk to the town board about using the rear end of their property. So once we have a permission in place to develop a plan, then at that point, I'll talk to St. Joe's before we actually begin planning anything.
One of the things that we talked about in front of the town board, and then especially when we were alone with the board member, was the possibility of extending the beach days. Instead of stopping at the fair, I think the Friday before the fair, it would actually extend to maybe even Columbus Day, depending on weather and things like that, maybe going to weekends and things. And they had been against it because they had said that there was issues with staffing. But I contacted Spiritual Life Center, and they are more than willing to set up an agreement, because they have staff that aren't doing stuff during certain times, that they could staff it with some kind of an agreement of financial retribution or whatever. So they're more than willing to move forward with that. They wanted to do it this year, but it was I told them it was impossible to do it this year because they weren't planning on it. So and they spent money. It's really too bad, but they spent over $2,500 on playground equipment for their park out there at the beach, and we could have partnered with them on that, and it could have been. They ended up going with a different company, and it's still not out there. They're backlogged 5 months, they said, on equipment. So we could have partnered with them, and they could have used Parkitex and had it up and running for the summer program. So it was a shame.
Has there been any progress made on the concert for the winter?
I haven't touched that yet,
okay.
But I would love to. I just we just need to sit down with Matt, and he had been gung-ho about it before. And I do want to talk with the music directors up there too, the chorus and the band directors, and see if that's willing to do it.
Okay.
But it was such a, I didn't want to start something if we were moving in a different direction.
It was also an awkward time because Matt taking a new position and then a new principal coming on board.
Yeah.
So.
But if we move into the nonprofit realm, we could actually spearhead that rather than me communicating with the school and then having the school really, because the way we are now is I can't run a program for you. Like we did with the Spiritual Life Center, we have to contract with them and then give them the dollar amount and just kind of change hands. But with the school, if we started a nonprofit, we could actually run the program and we could have a shared agreement with the school to just use the facility, and then we don't have to worry about them being put out, because that, for the music director and the band director, that's a lot of extra work.
Sure.
So we could actually do a lot of that. And there's 2 members of the community that aren't part of the school that would be willing to work with that. So that's something to look at.
Good.
How long did that, my concern would be that to get a nonprofit up and going, that we would lose the momentum of having someone. If
No, you can
Pete's
get
contact-
it done in a week.
Yeah, the stuff that I submitted is all the preliminary stuff.
501c3
Right.
certification in a week, but you can form a not-for-profit corporation.
Yeah, that I already submitted a mission statement, the people and the purpose and all that stuff. So all of that stuff is all the preliminary stuff to start the nonprofit. So we really wouldn't need much more other than the people saying yes, and I didn't want to talk to them again until, because it would be the 3rd strike for some of them. So, but they're all, as far as I know, very very gung-ho about it, if that's the village's wish. So.
Any other comments or questions?
And Jim, actually, when we did it originally, Jim was our person to help us, and he had agreed upon it then too. So he might even have a copy of that proposal I had submitted to you.
Probably still does.
Yeah, because I gave that to him as well. But it's something to think about.
Okay.
How do we want to proceed? There we go. We're going to go to next month.
Well,
again, my concern is if Pete's contract is up next month, and we don't have our not-for-profit group in place, that we lose a month, which could be planning for the concert in December.
I have a question about what, if the not-for-profit is going to provide more or less the same services you're providing, is it going to be also the same fee?
I consider there to be no fee.
No fee.
That's how I set it up, was that it's a win-win situation, because right now, and I've said this to you on numerous occasions in public and private, is that if we set up a nonprofit, it saves the village $1,000 a month, give or take $25. And you can also now provide services, which I cannot do that, insurance-wise and legality-wise and everything. So now you can provide services because you're a nonprofit, you can fundraise because you're a nonprofit, and you can do the same thing that I'm doing, but with more people doing it. You know, with Lynn Graves and her contacts with the school, and Garson with his contacts in the business community, you really, you know, and the people I submitted, I think, are a very well balanced, diverse group of people. And obviously it could be bigger or smaller. It's really up to you guys.
Yep, and I just spoke to Rylin last week, and she was very enthused about the direction we're heading in. So.
And the structure of it, I know we had originally talked a while back that we could even have board representation. It's either cyclical or it can change. It's completely up to you guys. But, I mean, if worse comes to worse, and my contract runs out in October, I mean, we can still keep moving forward. It's not, you know, I mean, but this seems great, and especially with the new context on the board, it seems like it would be a really nice direction.
Yeah. And Dora, what I'll do is after the meeting with Jim, I'll touch base with everybody just to let them know the results of the meeting. Okay? Any questions from anybody else in the board or the public for Peter? No? Okay, thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Mayor's report, it's in writing in front of you all. The one thing that isn't on here, I mean, some of this has already been touched on. The one thing that isn't on here that we are going to be going forward with on October 1st, I've spoken with Diane about this, is we're going to start keeping track of our vehicle uses. And it's just trying to make sure that we are as accountable to the public as possible for costs. I'm going to be asking all the department heads every month to give Diane the mileage for each vehicle and the gas usage for each vehicle and any maintenance costs for each vehicle. So we can see exactly how much we're spending on transportation costs, and it's a way for all of us to try and keep those gas costs under better control. And we're building an online application that Diana will be keeping track of everything. So we'll be able to pull up reports from that fairly easily, at the end of the year, every 6 months, and to search through just to see what the costs are on a month-per-month basis for a vehicle. So when a request does come in to replace something, we'll have a better understanding of what the what we've spent in the past and if it's really justified or not. And the only other really highlight here is there have a meeting set up on Thursday with Kathy Dorgan, who's a freelance technical assistance provider to the state. She worked with the Streetscapes program over the past year and a half on a state grant to help plan the trees up and down. There's money left over in her budget that she never billed. So what she's agreed to do is to work with the village, so long as there is money still left in that program, to help us plan other things that we can do downtown, whether it's applying for a new streetscape scan, maybe hoping to look for new parking, or other issues like that. And when I'm talking to her on Thursday, I'll find out how much money is left in her budget and how many hours are involved. The one thing I should mention too is I met on Friday with Joseph Turk from Flint Brothers to explore the possibility of a municipal parking lot way behind their property, and he's dead set against that for any number of reasons. So we're going to have to go forward and try and find another location for a municipal parking lot, and that's something I'm going to be talking to Kathy Dorgan about, just so we can maybe even walk the streets and look at what's there, and hopefully she'll have some expertise in where we can find some grant funding and stuff like that. And as we heard that we got a $25,000 grant from Hudson Partnership, which I mentioned last meeting, as seed money for a new comprehensive plan. That grant is still in effect for us, despite the 6% across the board cutbacks from David Patterson. The reason for that is the partnership had a buffer of money which they never allocated to any specific projects. And so at the most recent meeting, we voted to take the money that was reduced overall to the partnership out of that buffer, rather than cut back any specific grant monies that were given out. So that was good to hear that. Any questions from the board or the public? All right, next up, Dave Rowe not from NASCAR.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Rowe. I'm the president of North Country Search and Rescue, a team based in Washington County, although most of our members are in southern Washington County. We're a non-for-profit, all-volunteer organization searching for lost and missing persons. We're requesting a coin drop for Saturday, 18 October, approximately 8:30 to 1:30 in the afternoon. The reason for that particular date is, one, hopefully the weather will still be warm, and two, the antique fair at the fairgrounds, which will increase traffic flow and hopefully maximize our take. Excuse me for saying that. Let's see. The reason why we need the money is it's a sad silver lining due to Jalik. We had approximately 8 members before the Jalik went missing. We now have over 40 members. And we need money for training, equipment, and supplies. Any questions?
I'm just curious, what's your source of funding now? Strictly just donations, coin drop, stuff like that?
Coin drop, and we tried a raffle just this year. And raffles are a lot of work, and we didn't make as much as we'd hoped. Any other questions? Please, feel free. This is not only a request for a coin drop, but also a little bit of PR.
How many calls did you have last year?
We had 3 calls. Twice for Jaliek and once for a gentleman down in West Crescent.
And how long have you been around?
Since 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a member since about 2003, and I've gone on a total of 12 searches. And it doesn't have to be in Washington County. There's a federation, a New York State federation, SAR Federation, also all volunteers. When the forest rangers, or in the case of the village, if the village calls the federation, they send multiple teams to a location. So when we had the Jaliek search here, not only did we have our team, but we had a few of the surrounding teams from around the counties come in as well. That's how it works. So we could get called for Saratoga or Warren or northern Washington County or wherever.
Mm-hmm. Is there any contact information you'd like to give out that the press might want to reproduce? So in case more people want to volunteer?
Yes. What would you like to know?
Do you have any brochures or anything?
Not with me right now, so I can provide something. We have a fact sheet that describes search and rescue. I can provide you that fact sheet.
Okay.
And I can also provide a application if you wanted to join. Sir, anytime we can get new members, I'm going to take them on.
Okay.
So I'll speak with you after the meeting?
That's fine.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How much training do you offer, or what are the qualifications?
Two basic qualifications to start with. You have to be physically fit enough to go into rough terrain, because people don't get lost in a nice open field. They get lost in God-forsaken areas, excuse me for saying so. And the second thing is, you have to have a reasonable opportunity to go on a search, because a search can happen any day, any week, any month, any year, any weather. So if you had a job that they would not allow you to get off work to go search, unfortunately, you'd be wasting our time and your time. So those two qualifications, physically fit and able to reasonably go to a search. We have a number of training requirements. One is a class put on by the forest rangers called Wildlands. We have CPR training, we have first aid training, we have map and compass training. We're now in the process of trying to get some certified dogs to track, and there's a brand new program that's just starting up, man tracking, where it's like the Indians do, you know, where you walk through the woods and you see the little signs. That's another program that we're just starting to get into. So there's a lot of training involved.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Do you have a physical location?
No, we don't. Right now, the physical location is at my house, because I'm the president, and we meet once a month in Fred's sub shop in Salem, because Fred's one of the team members, and by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, he's closed down his business, and he has that place where people sit and eat, and that's a nice area for us to just have our meetings. So, but we have no building or any one location.
Okay. And do you have to be insured?
Yes, and our insurance is through the Federation and through the state. When the Forest Rangers calls us out, when we get to the location and sign in, we are now covered by the state of New York.
Okay.
Good.
Do I hear a motion from the board on giving permission?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Do I hear a vote?
Aye.
Great. We'll see you on the 18th, David.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Yep. And if you have any literature you want to just drop off and leave at the village office, you're more than welcome to do that.
I have an in. Diane's my sister-in-law, so I'll drop all the information.
My condolences.
Well, we know who we're going to be searching.
You can throw that pen.
Okay, next up on the agenda is the bill payment. Do I hear a motion to authorize payment of the bills?
I think you had a question over here.
Yes. Oh, yes, Tony, sorry.
Can we have a location and time on this point, Brett?
The time?
Time and location.
The location will be on Main Street, across from the old AMP, I don't know what it's called. IGA, starting no later than 9 o'clock and ending about 1 o'clock
On October 18th.
on October 18th.
Okay, do I hear a motion to authorize paying the bills, which you just did?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? Do I hear a vote?
Alright.
Okay. Old business, the peddler's license policy. Tim and I sat down with it, went over that at length, and Kathy and I did as well. What's the status of that? Is there a final copy that you passed on?
I have not received any final deadlines, so I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
We met on that, didn't we?
No, we met and talked
the
about
water.
the water regulations, not the peddlers. Okay, we'll have to sit down before the next meeting and make sure that we have a final copy ready to bring forward.
Is
Yes.
there a peddler's license available? I mean, I had one a few years ago.
Yes,
So right now it stands as it was.
yes, and we're
And that
reviewing
was
it,
that
bringing it
little
up to date.
page.
You can also get a peddler's permit from the county as well.
Do you need one from the county and the village to peddle in the village?
Nope.
No, but if you have a county peddler's license, the village can't prohibit you from peddling. Okay?
I won't get arrested, right?
I guarantee you anything.
Not for that, anyway.
Okay, next up is the water regulations. I met with Kathy at length and also with Leo and Diane and Debbie at length. We made a number of revisions, nothing really major to them, but I typed them up, added it into it, sent it off to Diane. She took a look at it, and her notes matched up with the notes that I had made. So we sent that off to Richard LaBerge. He acknowledged receipt of it, and we should get a copy back next week that we can vote on at the next meeting.
I had a question about
Sure.
the fees. When I was looking at the fees, I noticed that the rates for outside the village were recommended as being only 1.5 times.
Those are our current rates.
These are current?
Those are our current.
Okay.
Because I
We
think the
adjusted
previous-
all those to what was in the former proposal from Mike Schreiner.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, those numbers.
So, because are we gonna get those, because all I have is what you sent, the draft
Okay.
proposal, but I
Yeah,
didn't get,
okay, I'll resend.
all I
that to
got was the
everybody then.
one thing, the one sheet with what apparently our current fees are.
Mhm.
Just, that was
If I
my
can-
question.
If I could step back, Dave,
Sure.
on the peddler's license.
Yep.
George, did you have any comments?
I had a couple questions on that too, but
Could you just get all those, if everybody could get those?
it wasn't
Diane,
anything
I can
major, it was just
consolidate them all.
one,
I know you had some, Diane.
Yeah, I had
So David and I, you have the copy that David and I handed out, so.
And pretty much everything that Kathy and I had questioned and wondered about were the exact same questions that Leo and Diane and Debbie brought up as well.
for the water?
Yeah.
Okay. But you're talking about the,
Well, what about the peddlers?
Yeah, the only, I had a question on whether or not it's the identification picture. Do we have a camera that we can use?
No, we don't.
Is that something that, if we do this, that we would need to consider? And the other, there was one,
But Leo, on the same subject, Leo was also brought up informally with me, the possibility of having photo IDs for the DPW dogs.
yeah, we had kind of tossed that around at some point, I think you and I, that we probably ought to have IDs for all of the
Yeah, because
employees.
every once in a while, they have to go up to somebody's
Yeah.
door. It'd be nice if they're,
Yeah.
besides just the uniform, they actually have a physical official tag
Yeah.
stating who they are.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's something we definitely need to consider.
Mhm.
And I just had a question, I wasn't sure who to forward the question to. There was one part about anyone soliciting, maintaining a chapter or local organization within the village or Greenwich Central School District, but it didn't mention the town. We might want to consider adding not just the village or school district, but also the town.
If you want to give me
What
one,
is-
You mean, educate
I
one?
got a lot of.
I'm just wondering, I think it might be helpful, Dory.
It's exemptions, yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart, I think it might be helpful if we could schedule a meeting before the next meeting,
Okay.
just to go over that.
Yeah, that was really all there was that,
Okay, and what we can do is we can schedule as a public meeting just to deal with the water,
With the peddlers?
with the water peddler's permit.
okay.
Is there, say, the week of the 22nd, is there a particular day that would be good for you? I know you're gonna be out of town.
I'll be out of town.
Yeah, I understand that. You won't be back until,
27th of October, or 27th of September.
well, how
We'll
about
wait
the,
until Tim can be back?
how about the, say, from Monday the 29th on to, say, October 4th? Because Tim will be here.
Anytime. We'll do Monday,
Yeah, how about that Monday then?
does that work?
Yep, so we'll have a working meeting just for the peddler's permit at 10 o'clock on September 29th.
10 o'clock,
7 p.m.
because they will, okay.
No, I had a meeting scheduled at 10 o'clock that morning, so I was reading the wrong
Seven
thing.
is fine.
Yeah, so again, it's a public meeting, anybody is welcome to come, but it's a working meeting just to deal with this issue so we can get it resolved in time for the meeting on the following Monday.
Do you want to, can we do
Or 2
peddlers
Mondays.
and water at the same meetings, so we don't have to do two?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that okay with everyone?
Nope, that's fine. Okay. And then, okay. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, next up, I propose that we amend the village law to add a section basically mandating that all dogs be leashed and under control at all times. Everybody got a copy of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the amendment reads specifically to allow a law. Actually, I don't have the law. No, I didn't. I didn't bring the law.
I
with
have
me.
the law.
Yeah, let me see that and I'll read it so it makes context, so it's in place. Section 3.3. Yep, it would go under section 3.3 would be an amendment under section F. And section 3.3 starts, it shall be unlawful for any person to, in the new amendment it would read, allow a dog to be leash-free when not in a fenced-in area. So basically, all dogs must be under complete control and leashed when they're out in the public. Any comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Subsection B also deals with the same subject matter, and I think you'd probably be better off amending subsection B and deleting the language or otherwise under control of the owner.
Mm-hmm.
Or delete
Okay.
that in its entirety and put in G, but you have to deal with B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know.
That's true. B says basically the same thing. Okay.
But it
Yep.
gives you the option of being under
Verbal
voice
command.
control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd prefer that word in there too.
Okay.
Because the dog got heel,
Yep. Okay,
so
so I'm
that should be
gonna,
arresting everybody.
Well,
Well, wait, though,
Okay.
but that wouldn't, then you're not changing anything. If you're allowing it to be under voice control, that's what it does now.
mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't change anything.
Dave's recommending that all dogs be leashed out.
I know,
Okay,
I know,
didn't
and I
know.
disagree with it.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
well, you can vote against it,
I know.
you know. This is the crux of the problem, is that on Main Street in particular, we have dogs that do respond to voice control, but we have some that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And unless there's something specifically to enable us to deal with the problem. And,
So you mean you selectively enforce this?
well, we don't have a dog control officer who does much of anything now, so, you know,
Right.
I don't know how we're going to enforce it, but the first step is to be able to actually be able to enforce it. I mean, that, you know, I don't really know what the solution is.
And this is coming up because of an incident a couple of months ago.
Oh, was this where the dog attacked somebody?
Yep.
I have the dog, but not the man now.
Yeah, and it took quite a bit of time on the part of our lawyer to get the situation resolved. So, Tony, you have to stand up first?
Well, my question was, are you eliminating voice command or not?
That's what my proposal is, yes.
Say again?
That's what I'm proposing to do, yes. To eliminate
They
voice
have to be
control.
leashed, even though they might be under voice command, they're still leashed, because we can't assume anything.
Harry, you have a question?
There are fines involved, and if so, how much?
There'll be a summons issued, and it's up to the judge to determine what the fine's going to be.
Is it a minimum fine or maximum fine?
There's a maximum fine in there. I can't, it's in the beginning.
Is it a realistic amount at this point?
Probably highlighted.
Is it up to 1,000?
No, I think it's up to 100 on the first offense and maybe 250 on the second offense.
Yeah, here it is. Upon conviction, a violation of this local law shall be deemed an offense and punishable by a fine not exceeding $100 for the first offense and $250 for each offense thereafter, or imprisonment for not more than 15 days, or both.
Wow.
Each day that a violation of this local law occurs or continues shall constitute a separate and distinct violation thereof.
Seems a little strong.
So I would like to amend what I'm proposing to remove the tail end of the sentence on section 3.3b, removing the last part where it says, or otherwise under the control of such person. So it would read then, permit or take an animal upon any public property. Prohibit would be unlawful for any person to permit or take any animal upon any public property unless it is in the charge of a person of adequate age and discretion properly to control its locations and is safely leashed and muzzled.
And muzzled?
Leashed and muzzled?
Leashed, I'm sorry, leashed, or actually it just says leashed, comma, muzzled.
That's
Oh.
not good.
I don't have a muzzle.
So I think you
Leashed-
might want to work with
leashed
that
or
wording
muzzled.
to figure out what,
Yeah.
Leashed or muzzled, so you could run free muzzled.
as long as it's muzzled.
Yep.
It's a muzzle.
That makes no sense.
Big muzzle dog can knock you right anywhere there.
Absolutely.
So I can muzzle my dog and let it run.
No. If it's a big dog, you can do a lot of damage if it's just muzzle.
Of course. I think it's absurd.
Take the muzzle out.
Tim?
I was just thinking, I was listening.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, we'll have to
That
have a,
would be a good, that would be a good public hearing. too.
yep, and if we do, if the board does vote on this, we'll have to have a public hearing on this. So, any other comments?
Would you like to set that for possibly the same night as our meeting?
Yeah.
Can I get anything else done?
No, we'll set it up another time.
Let's do that in the next board meeting.
So again, let me just repeat what I'm suggesting, the amendment to the local law will say. It shall be unlawful for any person to permit or take an animal upon any public property unless it is in the charge of a person of adequate age and discretion properly to control its actions and is safely leashed. Period. Remove the muzzle part and remove the part about or otherwise under control of such person.
Because I think muzzle is at discretion of the owner. And I know people that muzzle their dog and I don't ask why. Other people that don't,
You don't put your finger here either, do you?
unless I know it.
So is there any other discussion or comments from the board?
Do we need to have a motion and a second before we decide if we have a public hearing, or are we just going, or do we go into the assumption, I guess I'm not sure where we go from this. I'm not sure where I stand, it would be interesting to hear what public comment would be.
If we vote to put this into effect tonight, then we have to have a public hearing to make it official. Correct, Andy?
I'm not sure on this type of law. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, on amending a law, no, it's got to be in its final form more than, and on everybody's desk, at least 10 days before a public meeting. So it's not passed until it's in its final form, and you can have the public meeting at the same time, discuss it, and then decide whether to pass it.
So basically what we have to do now is just set a time
Reword it and set it next month.
to have a public meeting.
Yeah, there's a particular form that the amendment has to be.
Okay, do do I hear a motion to go forward with a public hearing on this?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do I hear a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Do you want to set it to?
Yep.
It's gonna be October 15th.
That's our next meeting.
Yeah, October 15th.
Mm-hmm.
At 7:15?
7:30,
7:30?
because the reports seem to take about half an hour, so.
Yeah, okay.
So there'll be a public hearing at 7:30 on October 15th on this, at the next village meeting. Okay, next up, signs for parking. George had gotten a quote on what the signs would cost for the no parking effect in the village, and Leo did, sorry. And the cost was a little over $2,000 just for the material itself. And the way the local law is written, we would have to put them in starting at the library and going all the way down Main Street. Any comments or discussion from the board?
I don't think we need to be all the way to the library.
It's a lot of money for signs.
Yeah, that doesn't include the labor.
Yeah, it's a huge amount. I mean, I understand the laws on the books. We should, if we're going to have it, we should enforce it. But that's a huge amount of money. Where would that come out of, Lee?
It'd be the .2 street maintenance.
What would that take away from what you're planning on doing this year?
And .2 isn't a lot of money, so.
Cut into a lot.
Yeah.
And I assume that this is something that if we put the signs up, we couldn't put up part 1 year and part another year, they would all have to go up, correct? Okay.
Just remember that you planted 40 brand new trees down through there too. So it's gonna get.
Kathy?
When you meet with the woman on Thursday from the streetscape program,
Kathy Dorgan?
Potentially there's money left that could be used for signage that might be a little bit, well, of course it's going to be more expensive because they don't want to pay for green poles and, you know, white signs if they're going to make a monetary investment in the streetscape. So see if there's some money there.
Okay.
And I think that we should decide if we're going to have to amend that law to actually take care of the parking area that's the problem and move forward from there.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from my point of view, and Chief Bell probably knows better than anyone else, I think from Glens Falls National down to Wally's on Main Street, Salem Street on the side of Trusco and the side of my building, and Hill Street down to the Verizon.
Hill Street, I think we're okay. We got that
Hill
covered
Street, we
now.
got one side,
Yeah,
parking.
we're okay.
All right.
So, yeah.
And then that should alleviate some of that problem, so then that reduces, you know, X amount of blocks out of there.
I don't know how much it's gonna drop back in the signage, but it's some. Because now you're increasing it, you're running it up Salem Street.
It wasn't up Salem before?
No, just
Because you
running-
know what's gonna happen then, is that if there's
Absolutely.
no park or 2-hour
Back
parking
up.
on Main Street, then there won't be any
Absolutely.
parking on Salem Street.
Don't move it.
So,
Right.
Okay, let me propose this. Since we have a working meeting set up on the 29th for peddlers and water regs, prior to that, I'll sit down with Diane. Oh, she loves it when I mention her name. And come up with an amendment for the parking law to change the area that would be covered to what Kathy's talking about. And then at that meeting, we can sit down and I propose that we vote one way or another to go forward. Either yes, we do it, or no, we don't. Because before we do anything, because if we're talking about amending the law, we have to have something in writing in front of us to change the local parking law as far as the area that's being covered. So we really can't take a vote on it tonight one way or another anyhow. Tim, you got something?
No, it's just, hurry up.
I have my hand up. I said, you know, I've talked about this parking thing for the last couple of years, and you know, I'm exhausted. It's really tired me out a lot. And a lot of people know my stand on it. And it's not self-serving at all, because if the law goes into effect, I actually lose a parking space. All right? But I do know, and I'll just make myself as short as I can, because I've been very frustrated by this over the years. Downtown is a vital part of this village. Most of the retail shops, not the businesses that don't need walk-in traffic, are losing business because of the fact that other people park 8 hours on the street. And what that does, it's a loss of revenue for the downtown, which is not that vibrant anyway. We're losing spots. Go up and down, you see a lot of empty spots. I think a change might be considered not 9 to 5, but maybe 10 to 5, because most of the business don't open until 10. That gives people an hour to come in and park there.
Go to the gym.
Go to the gym, right? There's basically 3 groups that are involved in this, in my view. Those that don't care about downtown. And I think there's a lot of those people who say, I never go downtown, what's the difference? That's an attitude that I find when I talk to different people. That's not healthy for the village. There's other people that don't want 2-hour parking because their staff parks on the street regularly and blocks other retailers that depend upon that kind of traffic. The other group, I don't know what they're doing. If they think $2,000 is too much money and it fails because of that, I think the downtown merchants that need that traffic may pay the $2,000. But we lose sight of the fact that the $2,000 may well or should generate revenue that would probably at some point wash that expense. So there's a lot of issues. And also I find that the downtown merchants are now kind of arguing with each other. One merchant that doesn't want somebody in front of their spot will park in front of another merchant's spot. So now you have animosity.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think...
It creates ill will among the people who don't even talk to each other, but sit in front of their stores and watch people come down and look for a place to park, don't see one, go down to Wally's, turn around, try again, and then leave town.
Well, I think
it's a shame, really.
Well, Harry, I think the general consensus of the board is to go forward with this. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that's the consensus. But rather than just put into effect now, I think we would be better off revising the actual landscape that the law covers.
What does that mean?
Right now it goes from the library all the way down to the very end of Main Street. What we're talking about is addressing this, to rewrite it, to cover the area that's really under issue. And then once we have the law written in a way that makes sense, then at that point we'll take a vote on it. And I think the consensus is that we are going to go forward with it.
Because a lot of people don't realize that our downtown, as much as I am, what's happening now. I mean, we have arguments on the street. Why want to cue these guys parked here all day, every day?
Well, we don't need to get into
what I'm saying.
we don't take guess about who's...
No, I'm not mentioning names, but it happens every day. You know, what the hell are you doing here? Well, I don't care. People give me the finger.
My opinion about it is it needs to be reviewed because we did some changes to some of our parking on the streets off from Main Street. So it all needs to be reviewed.
Sure. Okay, that's progress. I'm satisfied with that.
Good.
It's some movement.
Any other comments from the board? Comments or questions from the public? Okay. Next up is a point to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with CT Mill Associates for engineering services for the Guida problem, well number 2. And that's the contract that we authorized to go forward with at the last meeting. Do we hear a motion authorizing me to sign these?
So make that motion.
Do we hear a second? Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I think there's some provisions here in the standard terms and conditions that need to be changed.
Okay, we'll talk about this afterwards then.
But subject to,
Is there anything that's really glaring that the public should know, or is it just something?
no, these are just standard
Okay.
provisions that consultants like to put in their statement.
Okay, good. So Angie and I, we'll talk afterwards about this then. Okay. Do I hear a motion to go ahead and sign it with the notations on the amendment, on the agreement that Andy's going to talk to me about?
Subject to your
Subject
approval
to.
of the terms and
Yeah.
conditions.
Aye.
Okay, great. Next up, new business. And I don't have the resolutions in front of me. We've been asked that the Greenwich Bicentennial Committee is going to be applying for a grant from LIRAC to help cover the costs of the expenses for various projects going on next summer. And, you have a copy of that? Yep. And Claudia from the committee spoke to Ann Smosinski at LIRAC, who's the grants director, and she said it would be much, much easier for LIRAC to be able to go forward and review a grant application from the committee if the board passed this following resolution, which states, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Greenwich gives permission to the Greenwich Bicentennial Committee to apply for a grant not to exceed $5,000 from LIRAC to help fund activities celebrating the village's bicentennial during 2009. And LIRAC is the Lower Adirondack Regional Arts Council based in Glens Falls, New York. So do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Do we hear a vote?
Aye.
Great, thank you. So we'll go forward with that.
Or do you want to announce the meeting? Okay.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
yes, and the next
bicentennial
bicentennial committee meeting
Friday
is,
September 12th.
yep, here it is, it'll be September 12th, 7 p.m. here. Will be the next meeting of the bicentennial committee, and the public is more than welcome to come. All right, next up is a resolution in favor of single-payer health insurance. Do you have a copy of that? What this is there's any number of proposals floating out in the public about how to revise and deal with the health insurance crisis in this country. In June, the United States Conference of Mayors passed a resolution fully supporting House Resolution 676, which is a single-payer health insurance plan. There's a number of reasons why I'm putting this forward in front of us tonight. Number one, with this type of health system, it would make our national industries much, much more competitive in international markets, because pretty much every other major industrial country, all the health insurance is paid for by the state, as opposed to the system we have here where it's paid for by individuals and by corporations. Such a system would also, in the end, lower the health insurance premiums that all municipalities pay to their employees. So we would be able to get our budget under control. So let me just read the resolution here. And this is virtually word for word the resolution that the United States Conference of Mayors passed unanimously in June. Whereas every person deserves access to affordable, quality health care, and whereas the number of Americans without health insurance now exceeds 47 million, and whereas millions with insurance have coverage so inadequate that a major illness would lead to financial ruin, and medical illness and bills contribute to 1/2 of all bankruptcies, and whereas proposals for consumer-directed health care, such as health savings accounts or health reimbursement accounts, would only worsen the situation by penalizing the sick, discouraging prevention, and saddling many working families with huge medical bills. And whereas managed care and other market-based reforms have failed to contain health care costs, which now threaten the international competitiveness of U.S. manufacturers, and whereas administrative waste stemming from our reliance on private insurance consumes 1/3 of private health spending, while the single-payer Medicare system has administrative costs of less than 5%. And whereas U.S. hospitals spend 24.3% of their budgets on billing and administration, while hospitals under Canada's single-payer system spend only 12.9%. And whereas Harvard researchers estimate that more than $300 billion could be recovered by placing private health insurance companies with a single payer, enough to cover the uninsured and to improve coverage for all those who now have only partial coverage. And whereas entrusting care to profit-oriented firms diverts billions of dollars to outrageous incomes for CEOs and threatens the quality of care. And whereas the United States National Health Insurance Act would assure universal coverage of all medically necessary services, contain costs by slashing bureaucracy, protect the doctor-patient relationship, assure patients a completely free choice of doctors, and allow physicians a free choice of practice settings. And whereas most polls show that the majority of Americans support universal health care, and whereas of the date of this resolution, the majority of American physicians believe that a single payer is the best method of securing universal health care, and whereas the United States National Health Insurance Act, H.R. 676, will guarantee every mayor that all residents and employees of his or her city will be fully covered for health care and save millions of taxpayer dollars now spent on premiums to provide less than full health care insurance for government employees, and now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Greenwich, New York, expresses its support for the United States National Health Insurance Act and calls upon federal legislators to work towards its immediate enactment, and further urges the adoption of a process to ensure that healthcare providers justify any increase in healthcare costs. Last week, the president of Albany Medical Center published a major article on the op-ed page of the Times Union on fully endorsing this proposal. So do I hear any discussion on this or a motion to go forward with it?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion from the board?
I'd like a little more time to look into it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels, but that's the first I really considered. I just like a little more information.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm strongly in favor of that.
What, the bill or just waiting to?
Going ahead with this and in favor of the things, in agreement with the statements you read.
Mm-hmm. Any comments from the public? Tony?
Is this an effort toward national health care of some sort?
Yes.
Since you represent people other than yourselves, is this the consensus of the village of Greenwich, the actual people, the voters?
I haven't walked around and asked people individually, no.
No, this would be the board that's voting for this. It would be our opinion, as elected representatives.
I don't think that the people of Greenwich elected you to vote on national care issues. I think it's above and beyond something that they contemplated in the polling booth, personally.
Well, that's your opinion.
And again, all this is a resolution urging our federal officials to go forward with this proposal, because in the long run it will save everybody money and make the healthcare system more efficient and make it more accessible for everyone. Any other discussion? Do I hear a proposal to take a vote or a proposal to table it to next month?
I would prefer we table. Voice. Yeah.
I'm in favor of voting.
I am also.
Me too.
Okay, do I hear a motion to go forward with this then?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear a vote?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, motion's passed. Next up, vehicle maintenance tracking, which I spoke about earlier. Again, this is something that I think we need to do. I asked Diane a few weeks ago just for a list of all the vehicles, VIN numbers, plates, and everything like that. It's not something that she had in hand anyplace. So we've never really kept track of normal mileage costs, maintenance costs, oil costs, or anything like that. For vehicles, again, I don't suspect anything wrong is happening. It's simply a way for us to show the taxpayers how seriously we take the budget crisis that's in effect now. And it's a way for our department heads to keep their mileage and their gasoline costs down, because they're going to be seeing these numbers every month. Leo, I believe you said that we do keep track of the gasoline costs, mileage, which is good. So this will be going into effect. I'll be asking reports for this. I mean, I'll pass something out in writing starting October 1st, and simply just pass them on to Diane. We'll expect something like that on November 1st, or the 1st of every month, very quickly after that, or shall I say the first Monday of each month. Backtracking.
Are you looking, what we do is we go off what Leo has, of course, when we turn the key into the pump type deal. It's the same thing, gas and diesel, and then it's tracked internally on one sheet, but it's all on one sheet. Are you looking for complete, you want that broke down into each piece of apparatus too?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to make some major changes then, that's a pain, all right.
Yeah, so we'll need mileage, gasoline, maintenance costs, whether it's a brake job or oil change or anything like that. And it's a way of just track
repairs too, for each month?
Yep. And it's a way of just keeping track of expenses, so.
You need a raise, Dean.
So how much am I getting paid?
All right, next up we have a permit, park and parade permit for the annual Greenwich Chamber of Commerce Halloween parade. They're going to be providing insurance. This is something that's been done for about 8 or 9 years now, I believe. And I know that as a resident of Main Street, I'd love to see activities like this going on, and it draws people in from all over the community. I'm not sure how much business it generates, but it's certainly something of very goodwill, and it's a way to make us all celebrate a holiday together. We're going to be taking responsibility for cleanup, and we'll need some help with George for traffic control and Leo for borrowing some cones. I'm sure at this point, this particular event's been going on for so long that we can certainly cooperate with the chamber with their eyes closed. Do we hear a motion to go forward and get permission for the Greenwich Chamber of Commerce to hold their parade?
I'll make that motion.
Do we hear a second? Any discussion? Do I hear a vote?
Aye.
Perfect. Rain, if you can let Kathy and everybody else know that
It's a go.
it's a go. Okay. Correspondence, we have one letter which was brought up earlier about a barking dog problem, and I'll read the letter out. And Diane, are there copies of it over there?
No, I don't
If
have
not, if the press wants a copy of it, we'll certainly make copies and make it available. It says, to the Mayor and Police Department of the Village of Greenwich, September 8th, 2008, from some residents of Bray Avenue. Gentlemen, we are not happy. We are being agitated daily by a dog who barks excessively at 36th Bray Avenue, and is a cause for extreme annoyance for the peace and tranquility in the neighborhood. It is almost 2 years ago that the police and animal control officer had talked with these people, and it was our understanding that a no-bark collar would be put on the dog when they let him out in the yard. For a long time now, there has been no evidence that this device has been used. This is a very unsettling situation for us to have to listen many times a day to this excessive barking. It would be greatly appreciated if you would get these people to conform to the ordinances that are village law. And it's signed by Robert Pratt, Patricia Pratt, Kate Barnhart, Emily Crawford, and the other two initials I can't read.
Andrew Billick's the last one. I don't know if they're-
Okay. And again, this goes back to the issue of the animal control officer who seems like he's not doing his job. So we take this issue seriously. Myself speaking, I've been lucky in the 55 years that I've lived. The only barking dog that has ever disturbed my sleep was a dog that we ourselves owned at one point, and the dog that woke me up every time I went down to stay. My mother-in-law's in New Jersey. So those brief experiences, I understand how serious this is for somebody that has to deal with it on a daily or weekly basis.
And a comment on that, David, is the fact that with the dog, it's not so much that the dog barks, it's the time of day the dog barks, which is 6 o'clock in the morning, 10, 11, 12, and 1 in the morning. You're waking up kids because they go out and they come back. So that's, because I live right next door and I have an echo in my windows.
Well, what I'm going to do on this is call Mr. Holland one more time, and the next time something like this happens, if one of the residents could simply give me a call, let me know, or call the police directly if you can't get a hold of Ed Holland, and we'll send somebody down and issue a summons, because if this has been going on for a couple of years, you guys shouldn't have to deal with this.
Diane, do we pay Ed Holland a salary, or do we pay per
call?
Per call.
Is there anything you want to add?
No, fine, thank you for taking it up.
Okay.
And doing something.
All right. Any other comments from the public or the board on this? Okay, last up on the agenda is public comments on any other issue. Right?
Yeah. No, I'm being pretty quiet back there.
Okay.
I'm listening, and I think I heard about the parking. There's not a lot to add on, you know, that part of it there. It seems like we're going, oh, I do have one thing.
Sure.
I think I was taken out of context at the last meeting about breaking car mirrors, and I think you understood what I said.
Yeah, I understood what you said, but
yeah, I'm not breaking any car mirrors.
Everybody we understood that's not what you meant to say. We understand that, Clay. Okay, and again, let me just repeat that the board is going to have a working meeting on Monday the 29th to deal with the peddlers policy, the water regs, and quite possibly the revision to the parking law as well. Nothing else will be discussed. I don't know that we necessarily need to schedule working meetings on a regular basis, but we'll be scheduling as they need to come up to make sure that we can continue to go forward and do the board business in a timely manner. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I'll move it.
Do I hear a vote? Aye. Meeting's over. Thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, there's a recycling box in the
Thank you.
Andy, you want to go over the stuff tonight, or you want to talk about it?
We can go over it, and I should probably, let me just shut this out, right?
You did well
tonight. Even though it was done.
Thanks for coming.
Dean.
Yeah, I know.
You like me? And what did you expect?